The biting chill of the Boston winter night bit through my cashmere wrap, a sharp contrast to the suffocating opulence of the penthouse where I had just been publicly humiliated. My hands, usually steady as I navigated the intricate world of global finance, trembled violently as I fumbled for the keys to my unassuming electric sedan. 72 years old, and I, April Beaumont, a woman who had built an empire from sheer grit and intellect, had just been dismissed from my own grandson's birthday party by my daughter-in-law, Serafina. The ghost of little Leo's confused gaze, Serafina's triumphant, chillingly polished smile, and the hushed, gossipy whispers of the city's elite echoed in my mind, a symphony of scorn. I slipped into my sleek, custom-built Raven Industries prototype, a vehicle so quiet it seemed to glide, designed for both anonymity and cutting-edge performance. It was a deliberate choice for my dual life. The city lights blurred into streaks of vibrant sapphire and ruby as I drove, my mind a furious maelstrom of indignation. They had seen a relic, a quaint, elderly woman with a charming little art appraisal business. They had no idea who April Beaumont truly was. My company, Nova Nexus Global, was a behemoth. From the humble beginnings of a tiny, forgotten startup in a shared workspace in downtown Boston, I had forged a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate specializing in hypersecure quantum computing, AI-driven financial algorithms, and high-end, discrete personal security tech, the very kind of systems that protected the mansions of Boston's most powerful. My charming little art appraisal business was merely a meticulously crafted cover, a side venture for my true passion, discerning the subtle shifts in human behavior, detecting vulnerabilities, and understanding the intricate psychology of wealth and power, often by observing how people interacted with items of immense, yet often hidden value. Serafina, my son Liam's wife, worked as a senior director in the public relations department of Aegis Secure Solutions, a premier digital security firm that, ironically, was a wholly owned subsidiary of Nova Nexus Global. The thought solidified in my mind, cold and sharp as the diamond I wore, almost invisibly, on my right hand. They wanted to teach me a lesson about knowing my place. Tomorrow, I would deliver a masterclass on knowing mine. I arrived at the gleaming, obsidian tower of Nova Nexus Global Headquarters at 5:45 a.m., nearly 3 hours before my usual start. The colossal skyscraper stood sentinel against the pre-dawn sky, its glass facade shimmering with a faint, almost predatory gleam as the first hints of a frigid sunrise touched the horizon. Jeremiah, the night security chief, a former Marine with eyes that missed nothing, looked surprised to see me. "Good morning, Miss Beaumont. You're in exceptionally early today." "Couldn't sleep," I replied, a small, grim smile playing on my lips. It wasn't a lie. The night had been a restless, agonizing replay of Serafina's condescension, her theatrical, public dismissal, and Leo's bewildered, innocent face. My office, a sprawling corner suite on the 90th floor, offered a breathtaking, panoramic view of the waking city, a sprawling canvas of muted grays and nascent light. But I ignored the spectacular vista, my gaze fixed on the glowing screen of my quantum-encrypted workstation. I navigated to the secure employee database and pulled up Serafina Vance Beaumont's file. Serafina Vance Beaumont, Senior Director of Public Relations, hired 26 months ago. Performance reviews. Consistently. Exceeds expectations. Peer feedback. Assertive. Brilliant communicator. Relentlessly driven. I clicked deeper, past the superficial accolades and glowing endorsements. What I found made my blood run cold, hardening into a resolve that would not waver. 3 formal, meticulously documented complaints, all dismissed with astonishing speed, all from employees nearing retirement. Eleanor Vance, a 67-year-old veteran copywriter with 3 decades of service to Aegis, had filed a complaint after Serafina publicly ridiculed her grammar suggestions during a high-stakes campaign pitch, calling Eleanor's input antiquated and suggesting she was too slow to grasp the rapid evolution of digital communication. Serafina's defense, neatly filed away, She was merely optimizing team efficiency and fostering modern communication standards. Richard Rick O'Malley, 60, a highly respected network architect from IT infrastructure, reported Serafina demanding round-the-clock personal favors, designing complex home security layouts, setting up smart home systems, and managing her private social media presence, all while simultaneously berating him for his sluggish response times compared to younger, sharper minds. The complaint was dismissed, citing Serafina's demanding role and high standards. The third complaint, the one that twisted my gut, came from old Bernard Bernie Jenkins, 71, the head of building services, a man who had personally overseen the meticulous upkeep of this very skyscraper since its groundbreaking. Serafina had filed a scathing report with HR claiming Bernie was unprofessional and incapable of following basic instructions after he couldn't immediately reallocate his skeleton night crew to deep clean a conference room she had spontaneously decided to use for an unscheduled midnight brainstorming session. The complaint was dismissed, and Bernie, a man who rarely took a sick day, had been forcibly reassigned to the less desirable, more physically demanding night shift at a remote data center facility across the city. This wasn't just about me. This was a calculated, insidious pattern. Serafina systematically targeted older employees, leveraging her mid-level position to belittle them, relying on the corporate tendency to overlook subtle abuse, especially when masked by claims of efficiency and modernization. A cold, surgical fury settled in my chest, more potent than any raw rage. This was not merely a personal vendetta. It was a righteous correction. My private, satellite-encrypted line, used only for the most critical communications, rang, startling me slightly despite my unwavering focus. It was Liam. "Mom," he began, his voice strained, raw with something akin to shame. "I'm so incredibly sorry about last night. Serafina was just... She gets so stressed with these huge social events. You know how she is." "She didn't just get stressed, Liam," I stated, my voice dangerously calm, each word a perfectly cut crystal. "She theatrically called for security to remove me from our grandson's birthday party in front of 20 of Boston's most prominent families. There was no security, Liam. She made a public spectacle of my humiliation." "Mom, she was just emotional," he pleaded, the familiar, cowardly excuse that had grated on my nerves for years. "She stripped me of my dignity," I stated, letting the chilling words hang in the air between us, traversing the fiber-optic cables of the global network I had built. A long, excruciating silence. "I know," he finally whispered, his voice thin, fragile. "I should have said something. I'm sorry." His voice choked, a rare crack in his carefully constructed facade of indifference. "But you know how she is when she's planning these events. Everything has to be absolutely perfect. Perfect. As if my presence, my very existence, was a blemish on their meticulously curated lives, their flawlessly Instagrammable facade of success. Perfection, Liam, often hides the most grotesque imperfections," I retorted, my voice hardening, devoid of warmth. "I need time, Liam. Time to think. And perhaps, next time, you might consider finding your voice for your own mother, rather than apologizing for the woman who silences you both." After hanging up, I leaned back in my ergonomic chair, a profound, almost crushing weariness settling over me. My son, my kind, gentle Liam, who once championed stray animals and shared his last dollar with classmates, was now asking me to accept his wife's cruelty. The thought sickened me to my core. By 7:30 a.m., the Nova Nexus Global Headquarters was humming with a low thrum of activity, a vibrant ecosystem of intellect and innovation. I looked out at the city, its morning rush, a familiar ballet of yellow cabs, hurried footsteps, and the distant wail of sirens. This was my empire. Nova Nexus Global wasn't just a company. It was a testament to everything I believed in: innovation, integrity, audacious ambition, and, above all, the inherent, unshakable value of every single person, regardless of their age or perceived status. And today, I would ensure those values were not just upheld, but fiercely defended. I summoned Eleanor Vance, the very copywriter Serafina had publicly humiliated, into my office. Eleanor, with her silver hair pulled back in a neat bun and her sharp, intelligent eyes, walked in with an air of quiet resignation. She assumed she was about to be officially let go, a final, bureaucratic dismissal of her complaint. "Eleanor," I began, my voice softer than usual. "How long have you been with Aegis Secure Solutions?" 32 years next month, Miss Beaumont, she replied, her voice tinged with a weary dignity. "Started as a junior copywriter right out of college. And in those 32 years, how many times have you been told your work was antiquated or that you were too slow?" Her eyes widened, a flicker of surprise. "Never, ma'am. Not until Serafina Vance Beaumont joined." "Indeed," I said, a grim satisfaction in my tone. "I have reviewed your complaint, Eleanor, and those of Richard O'Malley and Bernard Jenkins. I want you to know, unequivocally, that your grievances are valid, your contributions are invaluable, and the disrespect you have suffered is unacceptable." Tears welled in Eleanor's eyes. "Thank you, Miss Beaumont. I thought no one would ever listen." "I am listening now," I affirmed, "and I assure you, change is coming." Next, I summoned Elias Thorne, the head of human resources for Nova Nexus Global, a man known for his meticulous adherence to protocol and his cautious, often overly diplomatic, approach to internal conflicts. He entered my office, clearly sensing the gravity of the summons. "Good morning, Mr. Thorne," I said, my voice resonating with an authority honed over decades of high-stakes negotiations. "It seems I have some family business to attend to this morning, business that, regrettably, has spilled into our corporate family. Arrange an emergency meeting with all senior executives and the general counsel. Send the notice through our highest security channel, marked Immediate, Chairman's Directive. I need them here within the hour. And ensure that the minutes are taken by an independent legal observer, not one of our usual HR staff." Elias, ever perceptive, merely nodded, the usual faint flush on his cheeks replaced by a stark pallor. He knew my definition of family business often extended far beyond bloodlines, and rarely ended without significant structural shifts. While I waited for the executives to arrive, I began drafting an internal memo, not for Serafina, but for every single employee of Nova Nexus Global, from the entry-level interns to the most seasoned senior partners. It wouldn't mention her by name, but it would be a powerful, unequivocal reaffirmation of our company culture. A culture of absolute respect, unwavering dignity, and zero tolerance for any form of bullying, harassment, or discrimination, especially against our valued older workforce, our founding pillars, as I like to call them. I was not just setting a precedent, I was carving it in stone. Just then, my office door burst open, and Liam stormed in, his face ashen, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and bewilderment. "Mom! I've been trying to reach you. What's going on?" Serafina's office is in an absolute uproar. She says you're trying to ruin her career. I looked up from my drafting, my gaze steady, unyielding. "Liam, my son. You once told me you admired me because I always stood up for what was right, no matter the personal cost, no matter the inconvenience. You told me you would never tolerate injustice, never stand by idly while another was diminished. Yet last night, what did you do when your own mother was publicly humiliated in your home by your wife, in front of your son and your peers?" He dropped his gaze, his shoulders slumping, the carefully tailored suit suddenly seeming too heavy for him. "Mom, I froze. I didn't know what to do." "Did you not know what to do, Liam? Or did you not want to do anything?" I pressed, my voice low but cutting. Your silence, Liam, was as damning as her actions. It spoke volumes. It condoned her cruelty. He looked up, his eyes glistening, raw with uncharacteristic vulnerability. I want to be the man you raised me to be, Mom. The man Dad always hoped I'd become. Mom, please, give me a chance to make this right." "A chance, Liam, is something you earn through action, through conviction," I said, my voice softening just a fraction. "Not something you are given simply for expressing regret, Show me, son. Show me the man I thought I raised. As my senior executives, Elias Thorne and the general counsel filed into the room, the air crackled with a palpable tension. They knew this was no ordinary quarterly review. This was a tribunal, an inquisition, a reckoning. I began not with emotion, but with cold, hard facts. I meticulously detailed Serafina's 3 dismissed complaints, emphasizing her deliberate, predatory targeting of older, vulnerable employees and the unjust, often traumatic, dismissal of their legitimate grievances. I presented the patterns, the chilling consistency of her behavior, the systemic undermining of our company's foundational values. These behaviors are not merely unprofessional. They are utterly unacceptable at Nova Nexus Global, I declared, my voice resonating with an authority that had commanded boardrooms and market fluctuations for decades. We don't just build groundbreaking technology, we forge a culture of unwavering respect, unassailable fairness, and absolute inclusivity. I will not tolerate anyone, regardless of their position, their perceived brilliance, or their personal connections, undermining those core values. Not for a moment. Not for a single, solitary second. Elias Thorne, his face now completely devoid of color, nodded grimly. Miss Beaumont, we will initiate an immediate, comprehensive reinvestigation into these complaints and implement appropriate disciplinary measures if the findings corroborate these accusations. No reinvestigation is necessary, Mr. Thorne, I stated, cutting him off with a crisp, final gesture. I have conducted my own investigation, a thorough, personal one. The evidence is irrefutable. It is clear. Serafina Vance Beaumont will be demoted, effective immediately. She will be reassigned to our Facilities Management Division, specifically overseeing the uniform laundering and equipment sterilization for our R&D cleanrooms. A position where meticulousness and attention to detail are paramount, but where direct employee management is minimal, and where the value of humble work is on full display. A collective, audible gasp swept through the room, a wave of stunned disbelief. The Senior Director of Public Relations, reduced to laundry and sterilization oversight for highly sensitive technical environments, it was an unprecedented, devastating demotion. A fall from grace so spectacular it would reverberate through the industry. And let me be explicitly clear, I added, my voice unyielding, my gaze sweeping across each shocked face. This is not a temporary reassignment, a mere slap on the wrist. It is a permanent position. If, and only if, Miss Vance Beaumont demonstrates a fundamental, profound shift in her attitude, a genuine, demonstrable respect for the humble work she has so casually dismissed, and for the invaluable individuals who perform it, we will reassess her situation in precisely 7 years. But for now, she will learn the true foundational value of humility, of painstaking labor, and of the respect due to every single person who contributes to this company, regardless of their title. The executives nodded, a mixture of profound shock, quiet vindication, and a burgeoning sense of awe etched on their faces. They understood. This wasn't just a brutal business decision. It was a thunderous statement, a visceral, undeniable reminder that no one at Nova Nexus Global was above the company's core values, and that true dignity, earned through honest contribution, trumped superficial status or inherited privilege every single time. It was a reaffirmation of the very soul of the company. Later that afternoon, the internal memo was sent. It was concise, yet potent, circulated through every department, every subsidiary, every global office of Nova Nexus Global. It reaffirmed the company's unwavering commitment to a respectful, inclusive workplace and condemned, in no uncertain terms, all forms of discrimination, particularly ageism, and all forms of bullying. While it didn't name Serafina, the message was unmistakable, a cold, clear bell tolling her downfall. Liam called me that evening, his voice heavy with the aftermath of a domestic explosion. He had spoken to Serafina. She was, predictably, in a furious, white-hot rage, threatening lawsuits that would bankrupt us all, vowing to destroy my reputation and expose my true vindictive nature to the press. But I knew she wouldn't. She was too reliant on the status her position afforded her, too dependent on the wealth she had married into, too consumed by her own public image to actually risk a truly messy, public battle that would expose her own cruelty. Her threats were hollow, the desperate flailing of a drowning narcissist. I told her if she pursued any of it, I would file for divorce, immediately and without negotiation, Liam said, his voice resolute, stronger, more self-assured than I had ever heard it. I told her I couldn't live with someone so cruel, so utterly devoid of empathy anymore. Not after what she did to you, Mom, and not after what I saw she was doing to others. I listened, my heart swelling with a quiet, profound pride that brought tears to my eyes. You're finally making the right choice, Liam. A choice I believe your father, my beloved Arthur, would be immensely proud of. He always believed in your core goodness. The news of Serafina Vance, Beaumont's cataclysmic demotion, ripped through Nova Nexus Global faster than any viral marketing campaign she had ever masterminded. Within hours, the entire company was abuzz. Whispers turned into excited murmurs, and then into open, emboldened discussions, particularly among the older employees, the quiet stalwarts who had seen so many come and go, so many abuses overlooked. Eleanor Vance, the copywriter Serafina had publicly humiliated, emailed me a single sentence, her simple prose more eloquent than any grand speech. Thank you, Miss Beaumont, for everything. You have restored my faith. Richard Rick O'Malley, the IT specialist, stopped by Elias Thorne's office, not to complain, but to offer his support for any new initiatives. He discreetly left a single malt scotch, a bottle he had been saving for his retirement, with Evelyn, my assistant, with a note that simply read, "For the chairman. She earned it." Bernie Jenkins, the head of building services, who had been unjustly transferred to the night shift, personally delivered my morning coffee to my desk, something he insisted on doing himself for the first time in years. His eyes, once tired and guarded, now held a spark of renewed dignity, a quiet triumph. "Thank you, Miss Beaumont," he said, his voice soft but firm, a tremor of emotion underlying the words. "It means more than you know. To be seen, to be valued." "It means you are seen, Bernie," I replied, looking directly into his wise, kind eyes. "And you always were. Now tell me, how would you feel about returning to day shift, overseeing a new mentorship program for our younger facilities staff? Your decades of experience are invaluable." Bernie's smile was a sunrise. "It would be my honor, Miss Beaumont. My absolute honor." I spent the next several weeks in a whirlwind of meetings. Not to discuss Serafina's fate, that decision was final and irreversible, but to solidify Nova Nexus Global's unwavering commitment to an unequivocally inclusive and deeply respectful workplace. I launched a transformative new internal initiative, aptly named Wisdom and Velocity, designed to foster profound intergenerational mentorship across every single department. Experienced employees, particularly those over 60, were not only encouraged but generously financially incentivized to mentor younger, high-potential staff, sharing their invaluable decades of accumulated wisdom, their institutional memory, their hard-won insights into crisis management and long-term strategy. Conversely, brilliant, agile, younger, tech-savvy employees were tasked with enthusiastically reverse mentoring their older, more seasoned colleagues on the latest digital tools, the newest AI platforms, and the rapidly evolving landscape of virtual collaboration. The explicit goal was not just to bridge the generational gap, but to utterly dismantle the insidious ageism that Serafina had so brazenly exploited, to weave an unbreakable tapestry of collective knowledge. I also commissioned an independent, external audit of all HR complaints from the past 5 years, with a specific, laser-focused mandate to uncover and address any and all instances involving alleged age discrimination, subtle bullying, or systemic disregard for employee grievances. My message, disseminated company-wide, was crystal clear. No complaint would be left unexamined. No form of disrespect would be tolerated. and no abuse, however small or seemingly insignificant, would escape consequences. The very atmosphere within Nova Nexus Global shifted palpably. There was a profound, almost tangible sense of renewed solidarity, a quiet but potent understanding that our CEO, despite her formidable power and global reach, truly, genuinely cared about her people, especially the most vulnerable among us, those who had dedicated their lives to the company. While the professional side of my life clicked into place with a renewed, almost zealous purpose, my personal world remained a delicate, sometimes agonizing dance. Liam called frequently, his voice now laced with a mixture of profound shame, lingering confusion, and a burgeoning, almost shocking sense of self-awareness. He had finally irrevocably confronted Serafina, and the fallout was, as predicted, nothing short of seismic. She called me a traitor. Mom, Liam confessed during one of our evening calls, his voice thick with a pain I hadn't heard since his father's passing. Said I was siding with the deranged pauper who ruined her brilliant career. Said I never loved her. Just her connections. Just her ambition. Did you, Liam? I asked, my voice gentle, guiding him through the emotional wreckage. Did you love her ambition? Or did you truly love her? A long, excruciating silence stretched between us, filled only by the crackle of the phone line. I thought I did, Mom, he finally admitted, his voice cracking, raw with newly discovered truth. I thought her ambition, her relentless drive, was what I needed. After Dad, I felt so utterly lost, so adrift. And she was so strong, so confident, so utterly unwavering. She just seemed to know exactly what she wanted, and she pulled me along, swept me up in her wake. I mistook her ruthlessness for strength, her superficiality for genuine success, her polished facade for profound substance. I mistook her control for love. It's a common, heartbreaking mistake, son, I said, a wave of profound sadness washing over me, mixed with a sliver of hope. But recognizing it, truly seeing it for what it was, that Liam is the first crucial step to finding your own strength, your own authentic path. It's the first step to becoming the man you were always meant to be. Their divorce proceedings were predictably messy, protracted, and fueled by Serafina's insatiable desire for revenge and public validation. True to form, she attempted to leverage every social connection, every media contact, every high-powered PR firm she knew, to spin the narrative in her favor. She shamelessly portrayed herself as the tragic victim of a vindictive, old-money matriarch who couldn't bear to see her son happy with an ambitious, self-made woman. She even subtly, maliciously hinted at my eccentricities, my failing mental faculties, and my supposed delusions of grandeur, hoping to invalidate my authority and my actions. But her carefully constructed narrative rang utterly hollow against the backdrop of Nova Nexus Global's unwavering, powerful stance, the quiet, dignified support I received from the industry leaders who truly knew me, and, most damningly, the meticulously leaked internal HR reports that painted a very different picture of her brilliance. Liam, to my immense surprise and burgeoning pride, found his voice, his moral compass, and his backbone during this tumultuous public spectacle. He resolutely refused to engage in the public mudslinging, choosing instead to focus solely on Leo's well-being, shielding our grandson from the toxic fallout. He spent more time with Leo than ever before, explaining the complex situation in an age-appropriate way, emphasizing kindness, respect, and genuine connection over shallow material possessions or public image. He started taking Leo to the public library, not just for story time, but to help sort books, to the Natural History Museum, not just to look, but to volunteer in the junior conservation program, even to a local soup kitchen every Saturday morning, where they chopped vegetables and served meals to the homeless. It was a stark, profound contrast to Serafina's previous insistence on exclusive, private playdates, designer toys that cost more than a month's rent, and highly curated social media appearances for Leo. Liam was, at long last, becoming his own man. "Mom," Liam said one evening, his voice full of a tenderness, a genuine vulnerability I hadn't heard in years. Leo asked me why Aunt Serafina isn't coming over anymore. I told him. I told him she had to learn to be kind to everyone, Mom, no matter what job they do, and that Grandma April is teaching us all how incredibly important that is. He said he misses your Stargazer Queen stories and asked if you could teach him how to be brave like the Queen. A warmth so profound it brought tears to my eyes, spread through my chest. That was it. That was the real victory. Not the public demotion, not the bitter divorce, not the satisfying humiliation of Serafina, but the quiet, transformative shift in my son's values, the deeply embedded seeds of empathy, of integrity, of true worth that he was now, deliberately and consciously, planting in his own child. The legacy I truly cared about. I made sure to spend more time with Leo. We resumed our special Stargazer Queen sessions, often in the hidden, sprawling rooftop garden of Nova Nexus Global, beneath a canopy of twinkling fiber-optic stars that mirrored the real constellations. I would weave intricate, enthralling tales of a wise, benevolent queen who built her celestial empire not with swords and armies, not with wealth and conquest, but with profound knowledge, unwavering compassion, and a keen, almost magical understanding of human nature and the interconnectedness of all things. These stories, once a private, cherished ritual between us, now took on a deeper, more resonant meaning. Leo, with his bright, inquisitive eyes and his boundless imagination, absorbed every single word, asking thoughtful, probing questions about fairness, justice, and the true meaning of power. One crisp autumn afternoon, as we sat in my private, climate-controlled biodome garden on the 90th floor, surrounded by exotic blooms and the gentle hum of advanced hydroponics, Leo nestled comfortably on my lap, tracing the lines on my weathered hand. He looked up at me, his small face earnest, and asked, "Grandma, is the Stargazer Queen really you?" I smiled, my heart overflowing with a love so immense it almost hurt. "The Stargazer Queen, my dear Leo, is in all of us," I told him, pressing a tender kiss to his soft hair. "She's the part of us that believes in doing the right thing, even when it's incredibly hard, even when it feels impossible. She's the part that knows true power isn't about being bossy or mean or making others feel small. It's about empowering others, about lifting them up, about making them shine brighter. She's the part that chooses kindness, always." Meanwhile, Serafina's new life in the Facilities Management Division, specifically overseeing the uniform laundering and equipment sterilization for our R&D cleanrooms, was precisely as I had intended. A rigorous, unsparing masterclass in humility, in the gritty reality of foundational labor. She tried every trick in her once impressive book. She attempted to charm the laundry staff, condescendingly offering streamlining tips on efficiency, clearly believing her corporate genius could somehow optimize industrial washing machines. She complained incessantly about the long, physically demanding hours, the repetitive, thankless work, the rough feel of the industrial fabrics. She even tried, in a pathetic last gasp of entitlement, to pull rank, reminding her new colleagues that she used to be a senior director. But the laundry staff, many of whom had been with Nova Nexus Global for decades, were utterly immune to her ploys. They were tough, no-nonsense individuals, hardened by years of honest, painstaking labor, who valued integrity, diligence, and genuine respect above all else. They saw through her veneer of entitlement, her flimsy claims of victimhood, faster than she could wrinkle a pristine cleanroom suit. "You want to complain, ma'am?" I overheard one of them, a stout woman named Maria, whose forearms were sculpted from years of wrestling industrial washing machines, say to Serafina one day, when I was discreetly observing from a hidden vantage point. "The machine don't care. It just keeps spinning. Just like life, honey. You gotta keep spinning with it, or you get left behind, buried under the dirty load." The profound, almost poetic irony of the situation was not lost on me. Serafina, who had once prided herself on her glamorous life, her flawless public image, and her uncanny ability to manipulate social perceptions and corporate hierarchies, was now reduced to sorting biohazardous cleanroom suits, scrubbing stubborn chemical stains, and learning the raw, unvarnished meaning of true labor, of work that demanded sweat, not just polished words. Her perfectly manicured hands, once adorned with glittering diamonds and designer accessories, were now stained with industrial detergents and the grime of honest work. Her haute couture outfits were replaced by a standard-issue Nova Nexus Global Facilities uniform, stiff and unyielding. One uncharacteristically warm spring day, I walked into the cleanroom laundry facility, ostensibly for a routine operational inspection. Serafina was hunched over a particularly stubborn, chemically stained lab coat, struggling with a heavy-duty brush. She looked up, startled, her face a mask of profound mortification, her usually immaculate hair escaping in damp tendrils, when she saw me standing there, regal even in my simple business attire. "Miss Beaumont," she stammered, her voice stripped of its usual arrogance, reduced to a whisper. "Miss Vance," I corrected, my voice even devoid of emotion. "Just checking on operations, ensuring everything is running smoothly. Our cleanroom integrity depends on it." I looked at her, truly looked at her, for the first time, without the bitter filter of resentment, without the heat of anger. She looked tired, defeated, and, for the first time in her life, profoundly, uncomfortably human. "It's efficient, Miss Beaumont," she mumbled, avoiding my gaze, her eyes fixed on the stained fabric. "More efficient than you'd think. There's a lot to learn." "Indeed," I said, a faint, almost imperceptible curve to my lips. "There's a great deal to learn from every role, from every challenge, wouldn't you agree? Especially the ones that strip away all pretense." She didn't respond, just resumed scrubbing the jacket, her shoulders slumped in resignation. I gave a slight nod, then turned and left, the soft hum of the industrial machines filling the silence behind me. I felt no triumph, no cruel, vindictive satisfaction, just a quiet, profound sense of finality. The lesson had been delivered, meticulously and irrevocably. What she chose to do with it, whether she would learn or simply fester, was now entirely up to her. My involvement was complete. In the ensuing months, Liam and I forged a new, healthier rhythm, a connection born from honesty and mutual respect, something that had been conspicuously absent during his marriage to Serafina. He regularly joined me for family dinners, often bringing Leo, and the atmosphere in my modest, yet elegant, Beacon Hill home was light, filled with genuine laughter, the kind that bubbled up from the soul, untainted by pretense. He took on more responsibility, not at Nova Nexus Global. I insisted he find his own path, unburdened by my shadow, but at a burgeoning non-profit organization focused on sustainable urban development and ethical AI, a cause he discovered a true passion for. His ambition was no longer defined by superficial success or the pursuit of fleeting power, but by meaningful impact, by making a tangible difference in the world. As for me, April Beaumont, the pauper who secretly owned the colossal empire, I continued to lead Nova Nexus Global with a renewed, almost zealous sense of purpose. My focus shifted from sheer technological growth to holistic, sustainable innovation and profound social responsibility. We launched audacious new initiatives to support local communities, invested heavily in eco-friendly manufacturing processes and ethical supply chains, and continued to champion diversity, inclusion, and, most emphatically, age equality at every single level of the organization. My Wisdom and Velocity program became an industry benchmark, lauded for its revolutionary approach to leveraging cross-generational talent. I often think about that fateful night at the penthouse, the cold glint of the crystal chandeliers, the judgmental stares of the city's elite, Serafina's chillingly cruel words. It could have broken me, shattered the very foundation of my spirit, but instead, it forged me anew, harder, clearer, more resolute than ever before. It reminded me, in the most visceral way possible, of who I truly was, a woman who built her own destiny, not with inherited wealth or connections, but with sheer will, relentless innovation, and an unshakable moral compass, brick by painstaking brick. And I would never, ever again allow anyone, regardless of their arrogance or their perceived social standing, to diminish my worth, or more importantly, the inherent worth of those I cared about, those who contributed honestly to the world. The incident with Serafina, as painful and deeply personal as it was, served as a powerful, undeniable reminder. True power isn't about how many zeros are in your bank account, or how many people applaud your name in a room, or how many socialite circles you infiltrate. It's about the unwavering integrity with which you live your life, the profound compassion you extend to others, and the audacious courage you find within yourself to stand up for what is unequivocally right, even when it's profoundly uncomfortable, even when it costs you dearly. It's about building something that lasts, something that genuinely thrives, not just in terms of profit margins, but in terms of positive, transformative impact on countless lives. It's about being a stargazer queen, not because you wear a glittering crown, but because you possess the inner light to illuminate the path for others, to guide them toward a better future. My long, arduous journey taught me, beyond any shadow of a doubt, that kindness is not, and never has been, weakness. It is, in fact, the ultimate, most enduring strength. Respect is not a favor to be selectively bestowed. It is a fundamental, inalienable human right, earned by every living soul simply through their existence. And the greatest, most enduring legacy you can possibly leave behind is not a vast fortune, not a gleaming empire of concrete and steel, but a deeply ingrained footprint of integrity, empathy, and unwavering justice, ensuring that no one, especially those who have quietly given their lives to honest, hard work, ever feels insignificant, ever feels erased. So, if you ever find yourself in a room where someone, anyone, tries to diminish you, to make you feel small, to make you feel less than, remember this: they don't know your story. They don't know the impossible mountains you've climbed, the relentless battles you've fought, the sprawling empires you've quietly, painstakingly built. And sometimes, the most profound, devastating power you can wield is not a loud, angry retort, but a quiet, unwavering confidence in your own intrinsic worth, a calm, unshakable certainty, knowing that the truth, like a well-tended, resilient garden, will always, eventually, bloom. What will you choose to plant in yours? 1.